Welcome back to the Human Perspective. This month we're celebrating the 27th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, also known as the ADA. I'll be highlighting individuals using the hashtag ADA history. It is important that we document our stories and continue to share them with our friends and our family and around the world. Our guest today is Marian Schooling Vessels. Marian recently retired as the director of the Mid-Atlantic ADA Center, which is one of the 10 federally funded regional ADA centers in the United States. Serving in this role since 1996, she was the liaison with public and private sectors, including disability coalitions in the 6-state Mid-Atlantic region that include D.C., Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia. Welcome, Marian.
Thanks, Judy. It's great to be here.
It's great to be here. For our audience, Marian and I have becoming friends, I guess over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But when I was working at the State Department, we would frequently invite her in to come and speak with visitors from around the world to give them a better understanding not only of what the ADA is, but what technical assistance can mean and how it can really help a broad community to understand, in this case, what the Americans with Disabilities Act is about. So Marian, you acquired your disability in 1974. What was life like before that and after your injury?
I was a sophomore in college, and I was in a car accident and broke my back. Growing up in Southern California, we lived most of our lives outdoors. It was very athletic. I was a tennis player, very active. And all of a sudden, to be in a wheelchair and not be able to, what I thought to be, independently navigate the world. I was very fortunate to be at a wonderful rehab facility called Rancho Los Amigos, where I learned to be active both socially, independent, and physically. I learned to swim, I learned to water ski, snow ski, and do all kinds of things, play tennis again, that I never really thought that initially that I'd be able to do. And so it was a great exposure to the fact that life in a wheelchair would be different. And, there'd be things that I couldn't do, but there were still so many things that I could do through adaptation. So there were people like Candace Cable and others that played tennis with who are now, international stars. But I was very, very fortunate to be in an environment that helped support my ability to be independent, go back and finish college, and go on to a career.
So what do you see as some of the major changes outside of your personal life, but including your personal life, between 1974 and today?
Oh my gosh, huge. I mean, even in Southern California, where everything's pretty flat as a whole, there were lots of things. I mean, literally before I did anything, I would have to call. And of course, we didn't have cell phones then, hard to believe. So I had to plan ahead. I had to plan and see where I was going to go to the bathroom. I had to plan what I did, how I did it. I always was calling to say, this is what it means to be wheelchair accessible. Are you? And I was out and about by myself, so I didn't have people that, could help me up a stair or whatever, unless somebody there was able to do it. So everything I did was lots of work to assure that it was physically accessible for me.
So were you learning at that time about the importance of having a law with regulations that described to people what they had to do?
At that point, I would have adored it because it would have helped me. And I was working, I became a member of the California Association for Physically Handicapped at the time, and learned about advocacy through peers, Brenda Primo and other folks. So I was very fortunate to be in an environment where there was that advocacy and learning about it. But it would have been incredible to be able to say, see, you have to do it. The law says. And so from that to today, where many times I don't even think about finding out if they're accessible because I just presume, and sometimes I get there and go, oh my gosh, yeah, you're older, I would, of course I should have called and checked. But the presumption is that things are going to be accessible, that people are going to be aware, that they care about my ability to get in and spend money and participate.
So you came to the East Coast, and then you got much more involved in disability advocacy, and many of your positions were government positions.
Right.
You played an important role in the state of Maryland. But then you moved over to become the director of the ADA Technical Assistance Center. So maybe you could give us a little bit of information about some of the major activities that the Technical Assistance Center has done over the years, or globally what the TA centers do around the United States.
Wow. It is a wonderful system, and one that we've touted at the State Department a lot, because we have 10 regional centers across the country. And because they're regional, we're able to focus in on what the needs of our communities are. So every center functions a little differently based on their population. But all the centers provide information through an 800 number. We provide one-on-one resources for people, so depending on what their needs are. We are not advocates, so we talk to businesses, we talk to people with disabilities, we talk to state and local governments, we talk to employers.
So you're giving them factual information.
We are doing what is based on the law. So we're not saying you have to do this. We're saying this is what the law says, and these are resources for you. And there's maybe sometimes 2 or 3 different solutions to their challenges or their concerns. And it's up to them to decide which one they really want to do. But we can lay it out for them. And what we do is we spend sometimes a fair amount of time with people, making sure they leave with the resources they need to independently, hopefully, navigate. And if not, we're there to support them.
And you have webinars, and can anybody link into the webinars?
Absolutely. The webinars put on by the national centers, as well as the local centers, the regional centers, are all free. You can sign up, you can get newsletters from your local center, and you're able to then be able to participate. We've got tons of information on the website. There's no reason for anyone not to know their rights and their obligations under the ADA.
And some of the materials are in Spanish also, right?
Yes, we do have Spanish.
And I think some of the other centers may have other languages that the materials are in.
We've got a few things that we work with the Department of Justice on that are in other languages, but that's very limited.
So there is a piece of legislation which is being touted by some as necessary amendments to the ADA, which is called the ADA Education Reform Act. Could you briefly give us your view about this proposal and whether you think it's something we should or should not support?
From my personal view, it's something I'm very concerned about. I think it's something that will limit the civil rights of people with disabilities. To be able to have to say to a business, I have to give you written notice that you have to comply with the law. I don't know anybody else that has to do that.
Right.
And then wait to see if they're going to respond, and then you can go ahead and proceed. I want people to know the law, to be able to explain it to a business, give them the number for the ADA Center so that they can find out what they need to do. It doesn't need to be litigious. And also, it's a law that really is not about the ADA at all. It's about several states that have their own disability laws that provide damages. And that's what really has spurred all this. So it's not an ADA issue at all.
So while we're dealing with many things like healthcare reform legislation that many are opposing, the ADA Education Reform Act, I encourage people to look into it and also to express your views to senators and congressmen about why you believe this would be a bad piece of legislation. Well, once again, here we are at the end of 10 minutes. Thank you so very much for coming and talking with us today. We'll be posting the link to the ADA National Network so that our audience can learn more about the ADA and the center closest to where you live. For our viewers from outside of the United States, I encourage you to visit the ADA National Network, as they have valuable materials which you can adapt to the communities that you live in, regardless of where you live. I'm looking forward to our next conversation with our audience in 2 weeks. We'll be featuring a special series of interviews live from the National Council on Independent Living's national meeting. This year, the Japanese Council on Independent Living and NICL will be hosting an international summit with disabled people from around the world. We'll be attending and focusing on the International Disability Rights Independent Living movement. Please remember to like and share this video. Also, please feel free to send me comments about what you like and other things you think we should be changing. Also, be sure to follow my new Facebook page, The Human Perspective with Judy Heumann, to see all posts and videos. I look forward to our next broadcasts, and it's going to be a new experience for us because we're going to be doing probably more than one Facebook Live while we're over at the conference. Have a good day.